And this is where the inner storm begins. When you constantly silence your needs, when you swallow anger, when you hide your limits under the name of kindness, those emotions don't disappear. They build up in the unseen corners of your psyche. They ferment and darken. Eventually, they erupt in ways you can't predict. An outburst over something small, a sharp tone towards someone you care about, a slow seep of bitterness through sarcasm or withdrawal. Sometimes all that buried pain bursts out in a flood, shocking even you with its force. We like to think of kindness as a shield against the darker sides of humanity, but kindness without honesty becomes a hiding place for them instead. Every time you agree when you want to refuse, every time you plaster on a smile while your heart aches, every time you silence your truth to keep the peace, you're not being kind. You're abandoning yourself. And self-abandonment always leaves a wound. So why is it so hard to stop? Why do the most compassionate people struggle the most with boundaries? The roots go deep, woven into our upbringing and culture. From childhood, many of us are taught that being nice equals being good, that compliance earns safety, that love must be earned through effort, not existence. For children raised in homes where affection depends on obedience or self-sacrifice, this lesson becomes survival. As adults, they confuse people-pleasing with kindness, believing that to say no is to risk rejection. But genuine kindness doesn't demand the death of the self. True kindness makes room for the self. If your giving drains your joy, your health, or your peace, it's no longer kindness. It's quiet self-neglect disguised as virtue. Science helps explain this too. Neuroscience identifies a network in the brain known as the mirror neuron system, the foundation of empathy. It's what lets you flinch when you see someone in pain or feel warmth when another smiles. Kindness feels instinctive because humans are wired to connect. But here's the paradox. Your brain cannot tell the difference between empathy that heals and empathy that harms. When you constantly absorb others' pain without setting limits, your nervous system floods with stress chemicals. The body remains on high alert, as though the suffering you witness is your own. Over time, this leads to chronic tension, weakened immunity, and emotional depletion. In essence, your brain and body were never built to sustain endless, boundaryless kindness. It's built for balance, for connection that moves both ways. The dark side of kindness isn't that kindness itself is harmful. It's that kindness can be reshaped by fear, old conditioning, societal expectations, and unresolved wounds into something that appears noble, yet slowly drains us from within. When that happens, the very trait we once considered our strength becomes the very force that breaks us. Pause for a moment and look inward. If you've ever felt that deep fatigue, the quiet frustration, the hollow sense of invisibility, even while everyone calls you so kind, understand this. You're not broken, and you're certainly not weak. What you're feeling is the predictable outcome of a world that teaches generosity but forgets to teach protection. The monster within isn't evil. It's the collection of your unspoken truths demanding acknowledgement. So the question becomes, how do we preserve kindness without letting it consume us? How do we remain compassionate without turning into martyrs? How do we continue to love others without betraying ourselves? The uncomfortable but liberating truth is that kindness must begin with you, not in a self-centered or dismissive way, but in a way that honors your own humanity. If your kindness excludes yourself, it stops being kindness. It becomes a performance, and all performances eventually collapse. Think about airline safety instructions. You're told to secure your own oxygen mask before helping anyone else. At first, that sounds selfish, even cruel. But the reasoning is clear. If you lose consciousness, you can't save anyone. The same law applies to compassion. If you deprive yourself of rest, joy, and care, your capacity to nurture others suffocates too. That's why boundaries are essential. Yet for deeply kind people, boundaries often feel unbearable. They feel like turning someone away, like being cold, like betraying your role as the good one. But in truth, boundaries are honesty made visible. A boundary quietly declares, here's what I can give, and here's where I cannot. It says, my love is genuine, but it cannot exist if I'm empty. It says, I care enough to tell you my limits, because without them, my care curdles into resentment. Psychologists describe boundaries as invisible borders that mark where you end and another person begins. Without them, relationships blur into guilt, dependency, or quiet pain. With them, they become mutual, respectful, and real. In fact, research consistently shows that those who practice healthy boundaries experience richer, more stable relationships because their kindness is intentional, not coerced. There's something magnetic about people whose yes actually means yes. They give freely, not out of fear, but from fullness. And because of that, others feel safe with them. Their presence feels trustworthy. This is the paradox. Saying no at the right time makes your yes infinitely more meaningful. But here's the real challenge. Setting boundaries isn't just about saying no to others. It's about saying yes to yourself. And if your identity has long been tied to self-sacrifice, that can feel like treason. It can feel like betraying the image that earned you approval. You might even lose people when you begin honoring your limits. Some will resist your change, accuse you of being selfish, or quietly distance themselves. It hurts, but that pain is also a clearing. Because relationships that depended on your exhaustion were never built on love. They were built on convenience. Psychology has a name for this deeper struggle: pathological altruism. It's when the impulse to help causes harm, either to the giver or to the receiver. Think of the caregiver who sacrifices their health for others, or the friend who always rescues someone, preventing them from ever standing on their own. On the surface, it looks like kindness, but underneath, it breeds guilt, helplessness, and depletion. It's compassion gone toxic, and this connects to something even larger: the cultural myth of the good person. Many societies glorify kindness as the highest virtue, but often in a way that quietly demands self-erasure. We're told from childhood that good people give endlessly, endure silently, and never complain. That to care for yourself is selfish, that to rest is indulgent, that to say no is rude. These are the lies that turn kindness into suffering and empathy into exhaustion. She's such a good girl. She never causes problems. Or, he's such a nice guy. He always helps everyone. Beneath those well-meaning compliments hides a quiet danger: the assumption that to be good is to never ask for anything, never refuse, never disturb the calm. But true goodness isn't about vanishing into the background. It's about showing up as your whole, unfiltered self and still choosing compassion. When kindness rises from authenticity, it sets you free. When it grows from fear, it chains you. So how do you move from kindness that imprisons you to kindness that liberates you? It's not about tricks or quick fixes. It's about daily practice. First, practice the pause. When someone asks for your help, resist the urge to immediately agree. Breathe. Take a small moment to ask yourself, do I truly have the space for this? Do I want to do it? Does it align with my values right now? Even that brief reflection can protect you from the reflex to please. Second, learn the art of gentle refusal. Saying no doesn't have to be harsh or cold. You can decline with care. I care about you, but I can't take that on right now. Or I'd like to help, but I don't have the energy for it. The world won't crumble when you say no. In truth, honesty deepens respect. When your yes means something real, people begin to trust you more. Third, redefine your worth. Your value isn't tied to how much you do for others. It's inherent. You existed long before you were needed, long before you learned to earn love by being agreeable. You are worthy even when you rest, even when you take up space, even when you choose yourself. Fourth, nourish your own garden. Fill your days with what replenishes you. People who bring calm, hobbies that bring joy, stillness that lets your mind breathe. When your life overflows with meaning and fulfillment, kindness flows naturally from that abundance. It ceases to be a duty and becomes a genuine offering. Fifth, welcome your uncomfortable emotions. Anger, frustration, disappointment. They are not enemies of kindness. They are messengers, warning you when your boundaries are being ignored. When you silence them, they ferment into resentment. When you listen, they show you where healing is needed. Now think about the metaphor of masks. For many, kindness has become just that: a lifelong mask. The smile you wear to hide the fatigue, the yes you give to dodge conflict, the generosity you display to prove you're enough. But masks are heavy, And the longer you wear one, the more you forget the contours of your own face. The real journey isn't about discarding kindness, but about peeling off the disguise so kindness can come from the true you. The you who can say yes and no with equal honesty. The you who gives without vanishing. There's an old truth. If you want to know who you really are, look at how you treat yourself when no one else is watching. That's where genuine kindness begins, not in others' praise or validation, but in the quiet care you offer yourself. Do you rest when you're weary? Do you forgive yourself when you falter? Do you speak gently to your own heart? If not, the kindness you offer the world stands on a fragile base. Here lies the paradox. When you finally extend real compassion to yourself, your kindness toward others doesn't fade. It expands. It no longer drains you. It fuels you. It doesn't invite dependency. It inspires strength. It uplifts both sides. And perhaps that's the ultimate realization, the hidden truth behind the dark side of kindness. It was never about rejecting kindness at all. It was about transforming it, from a mask into a mirror, from obligation into choice, from survival into love. So the next time someone calls you kind, pause and ask yourself, is this kindness born of fear or of freedom? Of depletion or of fullness? Of disguise or of truth? The answer will reveal more about who you are than any compliment ever could. Because in the end, the monster inside kind people isn't their anger or their boundaries. It's the self-neglect that hides beneath constant giving. And when you finally face it, when you lay down the mask, you discover something astonishing. Your kindness doesn't disappear. It grows, it sharpens, it becomes luminous. It turns into the kind of compassion that not only keeps others alive, but keeps you alive too. And maybe that's the purest kindness there is. To live as your full, unapologetic self, unhidden, unperformed, unashamed. To remind the world that true compassion isn't self-erasure. It's truth made gentle. That's the kind of kindness the world needs most. Not endless yeses, not quiet suffering, but the courage to love without losing yourself.